Sound on, boom. Let's do this. My name is Andrus. Welcome to the Bacon Steel Test Kitchen and class number 40 on Zoom. We're doing rustic bread today, and we cannot wait. We've got a lot of questions on breads and steel and all of that. So we're going to go through every step to make it better at home. And a couple of things that we did here first is we've got our oven set up. And we're going to share all this information with you guys in a follow-up email. But if you look inside, I've got a baking steel on my middle rack, and I've got some lava rocks. The same rocks that they use in saunas to help create some steam so we can get that oven super hot and steamy so we can make really crispy rustic bread. It's just amazing. And I've got the dough already made, and so we're going to go through the steps. We'll work backwards. But I made the dough yesterday, so it's a 24-hour fermented dough. And you can go, just like our pizza dough, recommend 1, 2, or 3 days is ideal for just incredible flavor and texture. So that's what we're going to do right now. We're going to start with the ingredients. So we have flour. We're using the same thing as we do in our pizza dough: flour, salt, water, and yeast. We're going to keep it really simple as far as the hydration level goes, keeping it around 70% because it's still going to be a wet dough and challenging to work with. So the more water you have, the more challenging it is. So let's get into it. For the flour, we're going to play some loose rules here as far as the flour goes. I'm using like an all-purpose flour, an organic. You could use bread flour. You can use a combination of bread flour and organic flour. And I know someone's going to ask about wheat flour, and that's also a great idea. I might substitute in, instead of 500 grams of all-purpose, I might put 400 grams of all-purpose and 100 grams of wheat. And so be adventurous. Try different things. Like, you don't need to be stuck on just one flour. There's really no right or wrong answer. Just do what you feel like doing. So I've got my flour, and we've pre-measured everything. But remember, when we're cooking or baking, it's a science project. In order to get this nailed down accurately, we need to use a digital scale. This is a brand called My Way, and it helps us dial in the exact ingredients, because if you followed us long enough, you know the water to flour ratio is critical. And without a scale, you're just not going to be able to dial this in. All right? And we've already dialed it in. So bear with us. I'm going to take my ingredients now. This is a really rustic loaf. This is something that anybody can make. The skill level is not high. But what is important is just the ingredients. So we just take our salt, which is 16 grams, and we put into our 500 grams of flour. And I take a whisk, and I just whisk it around, just like this. And then I'm going to take my yeast, and this is a micro amount. This is 1 gram of yeast. And if you guys know those tin foil packets, they're 2 1/4 teaspoon or 9 grams. We're using 1 gram of that. It's micro. It's a small amount. I'm not blooming it in water first. I'm just throwing it right into my flour mixture, and I'm whisking it, just like this. And I know a lot of us can have questions to ask. Fire away, but we're going to get to all of those at the end of class today. So I whisk my dry ingredients together, and now I take water. In the town I live in, the water doesn't taste great, so I filter it. Everything I cook with is filtered water because I drink it that way. So could I taste the difference of filtered water in my bread? No chance. However, I know it's just a little bit cleaner. So I just pour my water in. This is 1.5 cups or 350 grams of water. Now I'm going to take my friends over at GIR, these rubber spatulas, which are great. I'm just going to mix in the bowl first, just to get that started, get the water and flour started together. Makes it a little less of a mess this way. Can you see what I'm doing here on the screen? And then what I'm going to do is just remove it from the bowl, scrape the bowl clean, And again, for our rustic bread recipe, this is a 24-hour dough. It's really simple, really delicious, really easy, and really, really good. Now, bench scraper. All I'm going to do is kind of scrape underneath and just press. And I do this, I'm going to take my watches off. I don't like to have watches on when I'm baking or mixing doughs. I'm scraping and I'm pressing. And I do this for about 2 minutes. And the reason I need this a little bit, because I don't want to have dry clumps of flour in my dough. And so by pressing it down and mixing it like this, it helps to prevent my dry clumps. And if it's your first time doing it, like there's no right or wrong answer, put a timer on yourself for 2 minutes, maybe 3. And it's really floury and dry, but the longer I do this, the moisture is going to start seeping out of the flour as it combines, and it's going to start to get sticky. And I've done this enough times. When it starts to get like a little sticky, that means I've kind of done my job as my kneading. And it's just about there now. So my timing, after this, I'm going to take this dough. This is where it gets... I'm not shaping it or anything. I'm just literally taking this ball of dough, putting it back into my container. And I have lids for these containers, which is great. I'm going to leave it at room temperature for the next 12 hours or until I go to bed. And so maybe around 9 or 10 o'clock tonight, I'm going to take this container and put it into the fridge. If I forget, no big deal. Tomorrow morning, I'll put it in the fridge. But I like to do about 12 hours at room temp, then refrigeration to cold ferment it. I hope that makes sense to everybody. So, because we're doing Zoom class number 40, we did this yesterday. Because now what I'm going to do is I'm going to form the bread and make make the shape of it. I'm going to use the tools. I'm going to use a bread basket. These are what are these called, Chef? Panetones. They have round versions. They have ovals you can see. They have a cloth inside of here. You can remove the cloth if you'd like, and you get those cool lines in the bread. I'm going to leave the cloth in today, feeling kind of clothy. My dough has been fermenting. It's cold. I removed this from the fridge right before class. So this is the same dough. You can see it's risen a little bit in the container. It's really cold. So my next step to shape this, pretend if you've been following us long enough, get some flour down. This is just one giant pizza dough ball. That's all this is. It's about 875 grams of dough, okay? And I'm going to just kind of knead it into shape. And what I'm doing when I do this, just giving this dough a little structure. I'm going to close it up like we do our pizza dough balls. And we're going to trap all those natural gases and glutens inside of this ball while it's cold, so it's not as sticky. And if it does get sticky, flour up your hands, just like this, right? Flour them up. Boom. After a couple of minutes, I'm going to take this seam. You can see that seam. See that? I'm going to actually aggressively kind of pinch it closed, right? I could actually do like an envelope fold here too if I wanted to kind of do that. But I'm just going to kind of chill out with my, like my pizza dough ball. I'm going to close it really simple. I'm going to put the seam side up into my basket, just like this. Okay? Actually, I'm going to do that, right? Seam side up. That's good. We're going to let this chill out here for about, how long do you think, Chef? Actually, I'm going to go seam side up or down? Yeah, I'm right. Okay, seam side up. Close it up. I'm going to leave it in this container overnight. Put it in the fridge for literally, 24 hours if you want, or 12 hours, whatever your timing is. For me, it's 11 o'clock. I'll bake this off tomorrow. It's got to chill out, let those glutens relax a little bit, so it's going to do that overnight in the fridge. So guess what? We did this already. Don't we have one in the fridge? I'll grab it. You grab that? Actually, you want to grab it? We're going to grab it because we've got one overnight in the refrigerator. It's been proofing. It's It's got the flavors and the textures all ready to rock and roll. I'm going to bake it in the oven. How we do that, you can see it's cold. I'm going to use parchment paper. And I guess this is probably a good segue to talk about my oven setup. I might try to move this over here. You guys can see, right? I've got my oven set up, preheating at 450 degrees, all right? And inside, I've got my baking steel, and I removed my top shelf because I wanted more room to show you guys that I wanted more space. I've also got a pan with lava rocks right here, and that's going to help us create our steam. So I'm going to close it. Actually, I'm going to close it right now. I don't want to keep the oven open too long because I'm going to lose all that beautiful heat. Let's show you how I'm going to do this. I'm going to launch it so you guys can see me. I'm going to take, let's work from here. I'm going to use some parchment paper. Actually, if I steam it first. I'll steam right when I go in. I'm going to use my parchment paper on my peel. Instead of using like a pizza, I'm going to shake it. I'm going to use parchment paper. It really helps to launch the bread inside on the hot steel, okay? Again, my baking steel has been preheating at 450 degrees for a good hour. So my bread goes on my peel. Look at that, boom. Isn't that beautiful? Because it's cold, it's going to be really easy to score. And by scoring, all I'm doing is cutting it to give it a little ear, okay? And I kind of just take my knife. I might want to do this with two hands, but take my knife. Let me show you guys what I'm doing here. There we go. All right, so I'm going to take my knife and just kind of slice it through. I'm using a perforated knife here. I go in pretty deep. I might go back in again just a little bit, just to cut a nice knife. Can you guys see what I did there? That's going to allow some steam to escape here. And now when I launch, I'm going to work fast here, but I'm going to basically essentially just knock that parchment onto the steel, and I'm going to create some steam. I lift this up again so you guys can see me here. So watch this. That goes on really easy, right? I've got this, my water, steam. Oh, I gotta pump it up. I just put a fresh batch of water in. You can see I steam my bread first. I'm going to steam my rocks. Close her up. The timing is going to be about 20 minutes. So got my timer on. I'm going to do 15 minutes first. Okay, and then after 15 minutes, what I'm going to do is I'm going to elevate the bread off of the steel just so I don't burn the bottom because it can get a little hot. And I like to, before we made these really cool baking steel bracelets that are extremely high temp. These go to like 550 degrees. And what they help us do, and in fact I'll show you, in about 15 minutes, I'm going to take these bracelets and put them down like that on my hot steel and put my bread directly on top. And that just helps so I don't get the bottom of my bread too dark. And if I don't have these bracelets, I can use, what are some things that we used to use? Yeah, like a roasting rack or something just to help elevate it. If you don't have anything, that's fine too. But you might see the bottom of your bread's getting a little too dark. That's why these bracelets come in handy. But you can see we made this awesome rustic loaf of bread. And we just removed this out of the oven. It's still kind of steaming and hot. This was about a 20-minute bake. 15 minutes on the steel itself. And then what we did is we put the bracelets down, 5 more minutes. We baked it on the steel, and you can see how nice and dark it is. Isn't that gorgeous? It smells amazing, right? This is probably a great time to get to some questions that you guys might have. So let's do that. What do you got? Oh, you need your computer, right? Yeah. Awesome. So if you have any questions, just type them in there. Craig's going to get those to us, and we'll answer them for you.
Lava rocks. What are lava rocks?
So lava rock, great question. Lava rocks. They are available at Home Depot, and they are literally, you can Google this, they are lava rocks. I think they use them in saunas. What else are they used for? What do people use lava rocks for?
Gas fire, like outdoor, like.
Oh yeah, those outdoor like fire pits, the gas fire pits that stay hot. They might put them in there too. They're not expensive. I think it was like $8 for a bag, and they're great for baking. We just pour them in there, and it does make a little bit of difference creating some steam inside your oven. Definitely.
You only use organic flour?
I only use organic flour. That's my choice. I just find today with all the chemicals we're finding in our foods, giving myself and my family the cleanest opportunity to make good, clean breads and pizzas with organic flour. The cost is a little bit higher, but it's still a small amount of money for a loaf of bread. And this is just gorgeous. Organic bread flour, I think, on this one, or all-purpose.
What if you don't have a basket?
What have I done?
What if you don't have a basket?
If you don't have a basket, use a bowl. Use a Dutch oven. That's fine. What else would you use?
A mixing bowl.
A mixing bowl is fine.
You could even use like a saute pan.
You could use really anything just to kind of proof it overnight. And the idea is it's rustic, right? So you don't, once you dump it onto the parchment paper, you're going to have bread, and after we shape it. By the way, I've taken raw dough out of my dough container before, just like this, okay, and baked it. In other words, I did nothing to it, didn't do anything else to it. Just so the shaping is cool. It's going to help develop some structure inside of the bread. It's not super important. Still tastes good.
Do you flour the cloth?
I did not flour the cloth. I would flour the basket though. It can stick a little bit. I'll toss a little bit of flour. And by the way, you could use semolina flour, just like we do with our pizzas.
Do you cover the bread when it goes in the fridge?
Do I cover the bread when it goes in the fridge? Absolutely yes. I like to take some plastic wrap and I just cover it, make it airtight. Because if we don't, what might happen, you might develop a little bit of a crust on top, which isn't the end of the world. If that does happen, just sprinkle a little bit of water on top. That'll remove the crustiness, but I do cover it, yes.
Oven temperature?
Oven temperature is 450 degrees, preheated for 1 hour with my baking steel. I use them kind of closer to the bottom rack.
How do you calculate how much salt to use?
The formula we use is about 3%. I think we use 3%, which is originally from Jim Leahy's No Need, which is awesome. Some people think it's too salty. I disagree. I think it's perfect. I might even add a little bit more at times. But again, play around with it. Not super critical. You do want to have some salt in there. It does play a role, but flavor is one of them.
Do you have to keep misting the rocks?
I do not. I missed it once. You could actually pour water in there too. I just happen to have that really cool mister. See that, right? Very powerful. Anyway, I do. You could just pour it in. And you can mist again. Yes, you could mist again. But in the first 15 minutes.
Where do you get the rings?
These rings, these are wristbands. These are actually really cool. They say baking steel on them. I don't know if you can. I'll try to get a close-up. Yeah, see that? Baking steel. The lighting's terrible. But anyway, there's baking steel on these. These are bracelets. We wear them. Okay? The nice thing, if we're baking, we can just place them on our hot steel because these are made to withstand high temperatures. And so I use them as a cooling rack also. You can see, boom, goes right on top. They're available at bakingsteel.com.
What was the sprayer thing you used? Can you show that again?
The sprayer thing. This is a garden spray. What we use for outside for our flowers. I just happen to use it for bread instead. Really powerful. I even like the color, garden-ish color, like spring.
Would you have to increase water using a lot of whole wheat flour?
Good question. If I'm using whole wheat flour, do I want to add more water? Play around at 70%, but yes, likely if you're going to add more than 10% or 20% of wheat flour, you might want to add a little bit more wheat. That would just come from the exploration, the adventure of making bread. Try it out.
If you don't have a pan with lava rocks, can you use a pan of water? What do you suggest?
Yeah, I mean, you could use ice cubes, sheet tray, ice cubes. that's going to generate some steam as well. I've seen people dampen cloths, put those in there. You can Google all these things. So that steam from the cloth will generate some steam as well. You can use nothing. You don't need to use steam. It tends to give it a little bit better crust. We've done a side-by-side. It definitely does something. It's worth the effort. Anybody else?
If you don't have convection oven, are you out of luck?
No. So the question was, if you don't have convection, are you out of luck? And I have a newer oven. Shout out to Monogram. These are beautiful. I always cook on convection. I do not tweak the temperature. I use 450 with convection. The convection is just a fan that helps blow around air to make it a little bit more even temperature. If you don't have convection, not a big deal. That's it. You guys rock. Thank you for being here. This bread is beautiful. We'll post this up, record this later on. If you have any questions, again, just email us or let us know. We're here for you. BakingSteel.com. Thank you, guys. I wish someone was here to enjoy this beautiful loaf of bread. It's gorgeous. Thanks.